All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Welcome to the Critical Line Network, where insight meets analysis and where conversations spark transformation. I am your host, IBK. Now, you know, this Diddy thing has been going on and on and on and on and on. And you know, here at the Critical Line Network, I talk about things a little bit differently because when it comes to any type of what I like to call sexual perversion, what I like to call uh, things that we rarely talk about in the Black community, and things that we love to see people go down for. Yes, let me say that. So let me start this party off right. I want to bring you a little bit of insight, and I want you to really truly help you to understand that they really did not bring Diddy down because of Diddy's sexual misbehavior or his promiscuity or his sexual conduct. They didn't even bring him down for how he treated those women. And I'm gonna give you some examples and I'm gonna give you some facts, and hopefully you'll have an open mind and an open heart so you can truly understand that America has long been a place of legal prostitution. It's been right in your face for a very, very long time. You just haven't paid attention to it. So let's get into it. All right. The Critical Line Network, honey. That's why it's called a Critical Line. Now, I want to start off with a story. And this story is facts. And I want you to understand just how much this stuff is right up under your nose 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, back in the day, back in the 90s, I know that you know of a popular group called the Cowboys. Yes, indeed, the Cowboys. They were some of the most famous guys on the face of the earth, from California to everywhere. People would make bets on them, people would put their money on them, and guess what? People would win. Why? Because the Cowboys would win. Okay. Now, I know two women personally. I will not say their names and I will not say who the actual people are. So the reason why I do that is not because I'm afraid. You know, I'm not afraid, honey. I'll open up my mouth and I speak about whatever I want to speak about. But because this is such from the past and there's no use to bringing up people's idiosyncrasies just for the sake of bringing them up. But I know of two women. I used to stay in North Dallas on Park Lane. If anybody from North Dallas, they know back in the 90s, North Dallas was popping. It was the place that you sold dope. It was the place that had the biggest clubs where people would party. It was the place where the Cowboys hung out. The place where all types of people hung out, right? Famous people would come into town, and all of the Michael Irvins and the you know, all the guys who were famous at that time. And I am here to tell you I know of two ladies personally. They were call girls at the time. One of them I later ended up going to church with. But one of them, I know she was very, very beautiful. Now, mind you, this young lady was a call girl. Both of them were. Both of them were pretty, but one was extraordinarily beautiful. This woman had everything. She had the nicest crib, what do you want to call condo or apartment in Dallas, North Dallas. We used to hang out at her house. She drank the finest wines and champagnes. She had the nicest clothes and she drove the nicest car. But she was one of the most down earth people you would ever want to meet. So even though she was this young call girl who was of extravagance when it came to her lifestyle, she was down to earth when it came to who she was and her personality. Now I just want to remind you just how deep this thing go. This young lady was a call girl for the Stars and the Cowboys. Yes, indeed, honey. I know because I hung around them and I know exactly who these ladies were. There was another lady, she wasn't like your high call girl, but she was like, I don't really know how to explain it. She just wasn't as high as that young lady was. Because, like I said, that young lady had it all. So I'm here to say that these things happen right up under your nose all day long. And I also want you to help you to understand the legal organizations that never get busted for this. I'm going to give you one. You all know of Hugh Hefner. You all know that Diddy is just like Hugh Hefner. The parties, the wild, and all of that. The only thing with Hugh Hefner, he ran it as a business. It was a legal organization, but he did not run it up under prostitution. He ran it up under entertainment and whatever else he ran it up under. And his people knew how to speak for him, knew how to cover for him. And for some reason, he never went down for it. You know that. Look at Diddy's parties freak off, and then look at Hugh Hefner. He was the biggest white pimp in America. Everybody knows that. With the little bunnies hopping around half naked. Everybody knows that. It's just that he ran it as a legal organization. Do you understand that? So Diddy's was called Freak Offs. Hugh Hefner's was called whatever that was, Playboy, Bunny. But we all know that is a legal prostitution ring. I'm gonna give you another example. Have you ever heard of Hooters? Now, before you say, no, not Hooters, yes, Hooters. But let me show you how. Because, see, I've hung around call girls before. So I know how the backdoor swings work. Nobody ever does anything up front in public. Most people are married. Most people are all kinds of things. So they're never going to do things up front. You know what I'm saying? Take Hooters, for instance. Who calls it a restaurant or a diner or this? And you have little young girls, beautiful young girls with skirt tails up to their skirt tails, up to their booty tails, up to their booty cheeks. Now, in order to be a legal or entity, you cannot have sex on their premises. You cannot have legal prostitution. You must not. And therefore, it should be up under the legal entity that it is described being. But we all know there is no way that these little young girls with these little skirt tails up to their tucky tails ain't getting some numbers up under those drinks that they are serving. We know it doesn't work like that. Strip clubs, legal entities, organizations, no, you're not supposed to have sex on the premises. But we all know by the time the strip show is over, the women have their clients. You already know how it works. So America has been a hub for legal prostitution for a very, very long time. It just depends on how your entities are structured. It's facts, y'all. Like, it's stuff that we don't want to admit, but it's facts. People have been having orgies and parties and all kinds of stuff for years and years and years and years. It's just the way it is. And yes, they are legal entities. But the key is to not get caught mixing the prostitution with the legal entity. You understand that? So if you claim to be a restaurant or a server or a bar or whatever you are, you must be that and not be running prostitution. Now, at the end of the day, there is no way you running around with your little drawers on and your little skirts on and somebody not hitting that. Now, am I saying all the women are doing that? You know I'm not saying that. But am I saying it's happening? You know it's happening. I know it's happening. So legal prostitution has been going on in America forever. So what made Diddy different? What make him different? Women get beat all the time. Women get dogged out all the time. Women get sexually perverted out and made to have sex with their friends and all that stuff all the time. What made him different? There is something that made him different. I truly believe that once the system has used you and dealt with you according to how they wanted to deal with you, or maybe you pissed somebody off, who knows? Nobody knows. Everybody's speculating, but nobody really knows for sure. All we know is that the federal government decided that they were going to bring him down. We all know that behind closed doors, people are being whipped all the time, beat all the time, sexually perverted all the time, both men and women. And nothing is ever done about it. Period. It happens all day long. White people, black people, all of this. But I do want to touch bases on this. Why do black people love to see other black people suffer? Why do black people love to see other black people go down? Black people will wear a cap on their head with a bunny rabbit on it representing Hugh Hefner, but would love to see a Diddy go down, knowing that Hugh Hefner was doing the same thing that Diddy was doing, and Diddy was doing the same thing that he was doing. And people may say, oh, no, it's different. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It's just that those people knew what to say and what not to say. Those people knew how to orchestrate their entity. Therefore, it was ran legal. There is no way you're going to be running around with little bikini panties on and bunny rabbit ears on and prominent people there, and nobody's getting their freak on. Y'all, I'm sorry, it's just not happening. The reason why I brought up the call girls in the beginning is because, like I said, I knew these girls personally. One of them was very, very beautiful. That was back in the day when the iBerries were popular, and even before that, you had the flip phones and all of that, back in them 90s. And baby girl would get her calls. And baby girl had money. Rent never was missing, none of that. And these men were married. But guess what? Nobody knew but those in the know. And besides those who was probably peeping on, peeping in, being nosy. But other than that, nobody knew but those in the know, God and everybody else. But at the end of the day, the men that this woman was messing with, there's no way you're going to be rich and established and the government not know who you are. There is no way. When you're on food stamps, the government knows who you are. Go out there and misapply and misabuse some food stamps and watch you be in trouble. So if they choose to touch you, and so it is with everything else. You don't think that this call girl who was working these men who were married and had women or all this kind of stuff, you don't think that the federal government knew what was going on? Of course they did. But they didn't bring them down because they didn't choose to bring them down. So understand that Diddy did not come down for the reasons why people think that Diddy came down. Diddy came down for reasons that are outside of the scope of what he was doing, because they let him do it for 20-something years, just like R. Kelly. Another thing I want to bring up about R. Kelly, when that song came out, age ain't nothing but a number, going down ain't nothing but a thing, you must remember just how sexual America was. Now, I was about 15 when that song came out. I'm being very, very honest. I was about 15. I remember because I had my firstborn child at 15. So I remember. And you cannot tell me that adults did not know what that song meant. Yet that song was played on the radios. That song was played on MTV. That song was played on BET. Age ain't nothing but a number. Going down ain't nothing but a thing. You know what age ain't nothing but a number mean. You're not going to be saying it to a 17-year-old to a 17-year-old. That's adult to who? Underage. Everybody knows what that means. That grown hustler on the block with that young girl with the clock. You understand what I'm saying? Going down ain't nothing but a thing. Everyone knew that was oral sex. If we knew it at 14 and 15, you're going to tell me that the adults who played it did not know what that meant? Of course, you guys, they knew what that meant. Of course they did. So this has been going on forever. But when people got, and trust me, ratchet sex like R. Kelly was doing was happening in the hoods. I know people like to hide it. I know people like to say, ooh, they nasty. Ooh, he dirty. But everybody and their mama know sexual perversion is rampant. It's just that people have a hard time admitting what their lives have really been all about at one point in time in their lives. It's only so many angels, you guys. All the rest of us, we had to go get saved for real, sweetheart. Because a lot of us have dealt with all kinds of things in our lives. It just depends on how honest people choose to be with themselves. And you know what I've learned the most? The people who throw the stones the most are the ones who have the skeletons the most. Facts. They don't want to tell you about the booty holes. They lick the dangalangs. They suck the changalangs. Those threesomes they done. The shikanicas they done. And the parties they had. No. So people who throw a lot of shade to try to pretend like that ain't none on me, you be surprised, sweetheart. I remember when I went to go see August Osage County. And that's the movie with Meryl Streep in it, right? So it's about this country family, and they had this dysfunctional, very, very family, right? And so within the movie, we saw Meryl Streep was there. I forget the other girl name. The one that everybody used to think was so cute. She played but anyway, she played in there too. I can't think of her name right now. So it was Meryl Streep and all the different actors and stuff that was there. Um, she's on the top of my head, but I can't think of her. But they were on stage, so it was a screening in Los Angeles. And I remember watching that movie, and a lot of it was so real. So real. How many? Okay, I'm gonna give y'all some real examples because people hate to be honest with themselves. How many people grew up and they thought their cousin was fine? It don't mean you necessarily touch your cousin, but let's be real with yourself. Some people saw that they had that handsome, that good looking green eyes, pretty boy cousin. Ooh, he looked good. See, people don't know how to be honest with themselves. Some people saw that cousin like, dang, she fine. This and this and this and that. Now, people are only going to go so far on how far they went. You understand what I'm saying? But how many times kids were in the closet goosing? You know, back in the day, they would call it goosing. But how many times they were in there kissing little family members and little this and this and that. And somebody will find them in the closet. They say, oh, I'm going to go tell mama. Or mama and them bust in the room and the kids bust up, act like they're not doing nothing. So a lot of times people can't be honest with themselves. I know I love to go deep on this show. That's why it's called the Critical Line Network. Because life is all about healing. Life is all about adjustment. Life is all about being better and doing better and not being in denial. Because the most people who love to stone the R. Kellys, stone the Diddys, stone all these people, oh my God, you'll be surprised what dangalangs they was slinging. You'll be surprised what coochies they was licking. You'll be surprised what booty holes they was turning. Y'all. And people just can't be real with themselves. Now, why did I touch on that from the little kids doing all that? Because when we walked out of Osage County, I remember this guy was walking up beside me, and he was, because you know, in August, Osage County, there was these brothers and sisters in there messing with each other and all that kind of stuff. So he walks up beside me and he says, I cannot believe, he said, I'm glad I ain't did all that, nobody in my family. I said, you a lie. I said, everybody has somebody in their family who has did incest. Everybody does. They done kissed a cousin. They done fondled a cousin. Some of them brothers and sisters. Some of them all kind of stuff. I said, everybody has that. Just like somebody has like some rapist or something, or some drug addict or something. It don't mean that it's you. It just means that to be in denial as these things don't exist is foolishness. But you know what I did find though? I do find that those who throw the most stones and love to rejoice in people going down are the ones that are in the most denial. Now, let's just say these men personally done something to you, whether you're male or female. I can understand the revenge factor. I can understand the I must get you factor. I can understand that's what you get factor. But I do believe that people definitely have to be held accountable. I mean, most definitely, because if you don't stop people, their behavior gets worse and worse and worse. And not only do they end up hurting themselves, they end up hurting somebody in the end. But to just want to parlay and parade, and you just got to see people go down. I mean, you ought to see some of the stuff that people are just saying. And I sit back and I think to myself, I said, some of those people are so in denial. They are so in denial that they are the private little ditties, that they are the private little women that was at these Diddy parties, you know. And when I say Diddies, I don't mean you're actually Diddy or actually at these parties, but they forget the things that they've done that may have not been so pleasing in God's eyes. The threesomes that they had, you know, the maybe the homosexual acts that they've had, you know, maybe the lesbian acts that they've had, you know, or maybe all the kind of things that people have done. And to want to see, you know, when white men get caught doing these things that they get caught doing, or when the federal governments get ready to bring them down after they've let them do it for about 20 or 30 years, they done screwed up everybody by now. You don't really see white communities parading and boasting and bragging and happy about it. Black people, for some reason, love to see other black people suffer. I wish that we can get to a point where we can say sit down as a community of people and say, what can we learn from this? Like, I'll take R. Kelly for an example. When they came for R. Kelly, I watched the world stone R. Kelly. Yet, I remember when everybody was playing it on the radio, MTV and all of that. I remember people was at the clubs bumping to it. I remember that the older guys in the neighborhood be like, "What's up, young blood?" You know, like, so why all of a sudden would people stone someone for something they did themselves? Now, if you didn't do this, Cinderella, quit trying to put the shoe on. Don't come arguing with me on this platform. But I'm talking logically and I'm talking rightfully. And what I'm saying is that why come we couldn't sit down as a community and say, let's analyze these and break these down as case studies. Let's study R. Kelly. Let's see, like, how did we get there? How did we get to these men being here? Because I'm going to tell you something. Somebody made those men. Those men are not just self-made. Somebody made those men. You know, when you get into the industry, whether it's acting or performing arts, whether it's business or whatever, you're given a brand, you're given an identity. Most of the time, those men are given an identity, and women, that you're the sex symbol, that you're this and that you're that. And you take on these ideas, right? And not making excuses. Don't say that, because you know that's not what I'm doing. But you have to understand how small things begin. They begin as a seed and they grow, whether it's wickedness or whether it's good. And you have to remember that seeds are sown. And so then people get all around you, making money from you. Nobody's checking you on what you're doing. Everybody's letting you do what you do, not to mention people doing what you do. They just don't want to get caught up in it. So they're going to throw you to the wolves. No, when the feds come, nobody's going to admit I was doing it too. Now, if the feds ain't touching you, why would you admit it? So, of course, people saw you hanging around these people, so they're going to start asking you questions, right? So everybody's going to throw that person under the bus, right? That's just fact. I'll give you an example. You're hanging out. 3 people go stealing. Only 1 get caught. You think the other 2 going to come forward and say, hey, that's my friend. We were stealing too. Lock us up too? You already know that ain't going down that way. You already know it ain't happening that way. Like, you already know that, right? So with these guys, there were lots of people involved, but nobody's trying to get in trouble. Nobody's trying to lose their assets. Nobody's trying to lose their careers and their image and all of that. But we all know when you throw a party, 1 person don't show up. That's why it's called a party. It has to be multiple people involved. So the reason why I went through these various examples, because I really want you to understand that American prostitution is real. Sometimes it's legalized and then the back doors are masked, but it's real. If Hooters was really just a bar where you go drink and you go chill and you go do all these things, there is no way that you're going to have these girls with these little skimpy skirts on and little booty shorts or booty panties on. So what makes it legal is that they must not do it within what? The company itself. But you don't think that homeboy ain't slipping this number? You don't think that there are clients? What do people call it? They call it their client. You don't think these things are going on, y'all? What restaurants you go to where everybody running around with the little booty pants and booty skirts on? A restaurant is a restaurant. A bar is a bar. A diner is a diner. You don't think at the strip club? What makes a strip club legal? No prostitution within, even though people do all kind of stuff. We know people break the law all the time. But you know, that's the rules. You get caught, that's how you go down. But those are the rules, right? So legal prostitution is big in America. Huge. Huge. It's just masked. And it depends on how the legal entity is registered. But what I would want to encourage the Black people to do is to really be thankful to God that if you haven't never traveled down that road, be thankful to God that you were able to not experience those things. And for those who you know that your life wasn't so shiny, honey, still be thankful because God brought you a long way. And for those who are still living that life, I want you to know that there is no shame, and that when you get ready and when life pushes you to, you can always change from that lifestyle, because of course it's never who God made for you to be. When it comes to these men, I don't look at them as bashing them. I do have a level of conviction, because when I was 15, I was with I think he was like 38, going on 40. And I know what it's like to be with a man like that. You know, I know what it's like to be with a man that is so much older than you, and he runs your world basically. You know, so I've been in those streets. You know, I have a very mixed life. I've lived in the projects. I've lived in middle class. I've dropped out of high school. I've went to college. I have like all these variants of my life. I've stayed in foster care. I've stayed with my grandmother, and I've also been in them streets. And not as a prostitute. I've never really been no prostitute or nothing like that. But being in the streets, you be around a lot of different types of people: drug dealers, call girls, just everything you can think of. And I'm glad that I've had these varying experiences. And I'm glad that I can look at them from a way that I don't have to judge these men, that I can understand these men, because the beast mold these men. And let me tell you something about the mark of the beast. If you keep feeding it and you feed it and you feed it and you keep accepting it and you keep accepting it, it grows. The mark of righteousness is the same way. You keep feeding it, you keep feeding it, you keep feeding it, it grows. It just grows into something good. But I'm glad I'm able to look at these men life and know that they have completely done wrong, but to also understand the holistic of their lives. They were molded that way. Those men went into those industries young. They were hanging around people who were doing all of that, and they became that. You become what you be around. They tell you that in success rings all the time. You keep hanging around poverty, you stay poverty. You start getting around those who think better and do better, you start becoming better and doing better. It's a part of life. And since the industry is so infected with a lot of darkness, it is what it is. But I would encourage people kind of see them from a different perspective and kind of understand. I'm not saying excuse. They needed to be stopped. They were out of control. And they're not the only ones. We're not even talking about the entertainment world. We're talking about out here in the world, where they got their spirits connected on to you, raping on your bodies and stuff on a spiritual level. So it's not like people don't need to be contained and corrected and stopped. We all know that. But what I'm saying is that when you look at their lives, understand that it was people that allowed them to do that for years and years and years and molded them to do that. And you become those beasts. I'm glad that some of the experiences I had in life, I learned early on. But I'm also glad that, you grow from ignorance to becoming wiser. You see how people trying to set you up. You see how people trying to destroy you. You see that they don't mean you no good. You see that they're using sex as a tool to try to murder you off the face of the earth. You see that they're going to walk up to you and tell you that God made weed. God ain't made nothing that you be smoking, sitting up to my. No, 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 no. But they're going to tell you that because once they give you the weed, then the weed turns into something else. And then it turns into something else. And then it gets sexual promiscuous. And then it goes from there. And then you start doing other stuff. And then you see what I'm saying? It's just a train. It's a train that doesn't quit. And then you start having vain imaginations when God wants us to have pure imagination. You understand what I'm saying? So it just gets worse and worse and worse, And people lie to people. They deceive people. And I tell people all the time, everybody's going to help you get into trouble. But when it comes your time to go down, nobody's going down with you. This has been the Critical Line Network, where insight meets analysis and conversation spark transformation. Again, I am your host, IBK. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You guys be blessed today, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.